It is about 8:35 a.m. here in a cloudy Charlotte, North Carolina. My name is Ren Jones. This is where I would normally have my Hump Day live session for Wednesday morning, but I'm enrolling this week no more than 5 women over 40 who want to build their healthiest body and their healthiest relationship with their body. Also, building their healthiest relationship with food over the course of my 12-week signature program, Women's Liberation Movement. If that sounds like you, DM me the word live and we'll have a short chat in the DMs, see if the program might be a good fit for you. I want to talk to you this morning about your goals. And the question that I want to pose is, do you need different goals? Do you need another set of goals to chase along your wellness journey? Because overwhelmingly, as a coach that's been doing this for a decade and working with women exclusively for the last 10 years, I've only ever seen one persistent type of goal that women will come to me with, and typically that's the goal of weighing less, having a different number on the scale under their feet. Now that's not all the time, but it is the most persistent type of goal that I run into, and I would say every other client that I have, for one client that has goals that apply to life, the next client will have goals that only apply to um, being a relatively inanimate object that weighs a certain amount in continuity, right? Can you get me to a static weight that stays at that weight every single day of my life, regardless of what I put my body through or what I do? And quite frankly, it's disappointing to see what a grip diet culture has on a lot of these dynamic, incredible, um, goal oriented, um, and intelligent women that they've heard certain messaging for so long that oftentimes there's no room for any other messaging. Also, it can be a situation where they don't recognize how having that one goal really compromises their their health. So this might be best explained by how I got into the industry in the first place. And I came into this industry from corporate America, from being an insurance agent, a life insurance sales trainer, because when I was out training my first student, my first employee at my agency, I got a call from home that my brother died of a heart attack. I had to disrupt that day's work, and of course went back to my hometown to check in and see what was going on. And sure enough, my brother died of a heart attack. It was only 4 years after that that I was coming in from being, as we say, in the field, and got a call from my sister, only to find out that between the time I called her and hung up with her that evening, she had died in a car accident, a single car accident. Her husband called me back. My sister was 50 when she died. She had been complaining of fibromyalgia, which I'm pretty sure now is musculoskeletal syndrome of menopause. Also, she died because she drank and got behind the wheel of a car, and she died, within a few hundred feet of the turn in for her neighborhood. She had been dealing with depression and anxiety. Both of those situations, obviously to me now, result of her going through the menopause transition, heightened anxiety, increased depression, the fact that she had already had an addictive personality. It was only 2 years after that, relatively, that my mother died of complications due to stroke. She was 60 when she had a massive stroke that debilitated her for the last 17 years of her life. Knowing what I know now about the menopause transition and the understanding that the rate of cardiovascular death and disease increases. My mother was 60. She was a smoker at the time, and that's what took her freedom away for the last 17 years of her life. She stayed with my older brother Rodney until Rodney died of that heart attack. She'd stayed with my older sister Robin and her husband, my brother-in-law Alvis, until Robin died after hitting that tree in that car. And Alvis died from relatively refusing his dialysis. He was a kidney patient. Out of grief of losing his second wife, he stopped going to his dialysis. He died 90 days exactly after my sister did. And so mom was in my care, and I lived cities and cities away from her. her condition had gotten so debilitated by that point that she was in palliative care, which is sort of a step before you get into a hospice situation. So those circumstances, my mother died in February of 2014. I took my proctored exam to become an NASM certified personal trainer in March of 2014. April of that year, I turned 40. And by June of that year, I had my first online client. So that was the impetus for me to come into this business. So you'll have to forgive me if my first thought when I'm working with a client is, how can I extend their health for a longer period of time, right? That's what I'm thinking about anytime someone hires me. And I know that a lot of clients that are in that age range, they are fixated on weight loss, whereas I'm a little bit more fixated on health gain. The two can coexist, actually, but I'm not going to drive your health into a pile of shit for you to weigh less on the scale. That's what we're not going to do here. We don't do that here, as a matter of fact. But I understand that I'm respecting the client's goals, but maybe you need some goals that just aren't so shitty and rooted in the 1980s. How about that, right? Because what that time period in the fitness industry did was taught people to be overly fixated on something that nobody knows when they pass you on the street, and that's exactly how much you weigh. And I've had clients that are very, very concerned, and I understand it, very, very concerned about a shifting of weight in the realm of 3 to 5 pounds. And as a living, breathing, feeling human, constantly responding to stimulus around it, right? It's shifting in weight due to things like fluid retention, due to things like stress, due to things like sleep or lack thereof, due to things like sodium, due to things like hot or cold or elevation or barometric pressure. Your body's made to shift repetitively so that it can stay alive, something we call homeostasis. Your body wants to return to balance. And due to that, it's almost impossible for you to make your body stay at a static weight, regardless of what you do during the course of the day, in perpetuity. You're not a piece of dining room furniture, right? You can't be carved into something that never responds to any stimulus, never responds to your own sleep patterns or your own hydration patterns. What are some other goals that you can look at? Well, the first goal I look at, one of the first goals you can look at, particularly in this stage of your life, I'm working with women 40 and over, so most of them have ventured into the perimenopausal phase of their life, the transition period before the end of your monthly cycle, your monthly bleed. Perimenopause is the time leading up to that 12-month period where you don't have a menstrual cycle at all. At that date, we mark menopause, so to speak, and then everything after that is postmenopause. So one of the things that can be a great goal for you is your bone density. If you've never had a DEXA scan and you are a woman 40 and up, I highly suggest that you get a DEXA scan, because we know that there's an increased rate of bone loss once you get into the perimenopausal phase of your life, right? There's a high chance, a good chance that you've been losing bone maybe since your 30s, and if not attenuated, if somebody doesn't do something about it, you're going to end up brittle. And we know that for women who are in their golden years and break their hip, there's a decent chance that within 2 years of fracturing a bone, breaking a hip, that you're going to pass away. A lot of those women never make it back home, right? So the first thing that might be a great goal for you if you're in the over 40 spectrum is your bone density. And you can improve it by strength training. You can improve it by doing some impact training. Pickleball is a great way to improve it, if not tennis, if not basketball. Running, we don't see quite the improvement in bone density because it's a linear impact, and we want the impact on multi-planes. We want you going side to side and up and down and back and forth. But that's a great thing that you can target as a goal for you. Let me assure you of this. Should your bone density increase to where your bones are more solid and they're healthier and less likely to break, you're going to gain weight. the scale's going to go up. You're all of a sudden made out of something that's more dense. Your bones are no longer hollow, brittle, osteoporotic. You're going to gain weight. The second thing that I look at is another great goal for you is to increase or at the very least maintain your strength in your muscle. Why? Because on the other side of 30, there's something called sarcopenia, age-related muscle loss. And it's very, very easy for you to fall into a space where if you're only tracking weight and you're actually losing muscle, which is making you drastically less healthy, you'll feel like you're doing yourself a service because there's a different 3-digit number on that box underneath your feet. And that's not the case. Losing muscle is a crucial detriment to not only your cognitive decline. We've had enough research now to make the association between the fact that if you have muscle on your body and if you work your muscle consistently, you are driving down the likelihood of early onset Alzheimer's. You're driving down the likelihood of dementia at some point in your future. And we know overwhelmingly the vast majority of dementia, Alzheimer's patients are women. The diet culture trap of trying to get you to submit yourself to being as skinny as possible, weigh as less as possible, is the same trap that's compromising your muscle. And when your muscle is compromised, not only do you compromise your cognitive function, you open yourself up to cognitive decline, but you compromise your body's ability to better regulate insulin, right? You become a little bit more insulin resistant, which is not what you want. You want to be sensitive to insulin, throughout your later years. So muscle also can be a preventative measure against increasing blood sugar, which is something that also happens during the stage of your life, during the perimenopause to menopause to postmenopause spectrum. Not only that, but with muscle, it's your 401k. Muscle is your retirement plan. Muscle is what's going to allow you to live in the home where you raised your children independently. Muscle is going to allow you to travel. Muscle is going to allow you to dance. Muscle is going to allow you to have sex. Muscle is going to allow you to have as long a health span as you do a lifespan. Because my mother had a 60-year health span. She had a 77-year lifespan. And it was not a beautiful thing to watch her, this independent, fierce, amazing, intelligent woman decline in her physicality for a slow process of wasting away. It wasn't super fun. And quite frankly, I'll be damned if I lead women to that place just to get them to weigh less on the scale. It's irresponsible of me to feed you your own misunderstanding in order to sell you something that compromises your health. I will never do that. I'll never ever do that. I don't care who it is or what you pay. It's never going to happen. So the second thing is, can you get to a point where you're strength training and then increase your strength over time, which might increase your muscle also, it may not, but can you do a strict form push-up? And then can you do 5? And then could you do 10? And then could you do 15, right? Can you do 1 pull-up? And then could you do 3? Can you walk them out, right? Can you run them out? All of these goals are goals that allow you to do something in existence. Quite often, the only goal that I get from women in midlife is to be an object at a static weight, to look in the mirror and see a body that conforms to societal standards. You have the right to choose whatever you want to have happen with your body. What I'm saying is that type of goal and the goals of being a functional human can coexist. It's not an or proposition. It's an and proposition. You get to do that. And for instance, I had a great conversation with 2 clients last night. They're partnered together in my Buddy Pass system, and one of them was just coming back from summiting Mount Kilimanjaro, and she told me about a sheer rock face that she had to climb, and how her quads, her legs, were helping her to push up the rock face of Mount Kilimanjaro, and how she had enough strength for the tiny handholds that allowed her to climb this rock face. Her partner both of them had just been in Colorado where they hiked to 12,000 feet elevation with no problem. Before that, they both dove out of a plane. I've got a client who is in Ohio who recently came back from Spain. She talked about her ability to traverse the terrain in Spain to get around, but also how easy it was to get her luggage in and out of the overhead compartment due to her strength. Got another client that just did a run. She got off the couch and did, I believe, a 5 or a 10K, I can't remember. Had a fabulous time because when she called on her body responded in the way that she wanted it to based on her training. And yet another client who was in Japan over the course of last month for several weeks and talked about hiking through the hills of Kyoto, Japan, as her and her spouse were visiting various temples in the outskirts of Japan. When you don't have things to do, when you're not taking your physical body out and experiencing the world around you, when you're not going to live and do things and participate and call on your body to see if it responds to you, you'll get very fixated specifically on objectifying your body, and probably very specifically you'll get swayed by what the scale, that 3-digit devil's box under your feet says or doesn't says, and there is no weight that guarantees health. There isn't. Whatever your ideal weight is that you can think of in your mind right now, I guarantee you there's someone in stage 4 cancer at that weight. They're not healthy specifically because they're that weight, right? Pursuing weight doesn't guarantee health. Pursuing health doesn't guarantee a certain weight. But pursuing health does guarantee a different set of experiences in the one existence that you'll get on this planet. And I'm always going to be a proponent for that. Again, both can coexist, but I'm not going to do tricks to drive your weight down to a certain amount simply so we can marvel at the 3-digit number and nothing else, knowing that we've probably compromised your health span, and it's probably not going to meet your lifespan because your specific weight was never anything except a marketing tool to get you to buy shitty products, because the diet culture, the diet industry knew that everyone had a scale in their home, so it would be easy for you to obsess over fictitious numbers that they gave you about how much your dynamic, strong, amazing body should weigh. And the numbers come from fairy tale places. They're not really relevant to anybody. It's just a means of coercion to make sure that you consistently feel like shit about the amazing vehicle that you are experiencing this life in. And like Black Panther said in that Avengers movie, we don't do that here. That's my Wednesday rant. Hope you have a great day. Go out and get strong. Do stuff. Don't be a person who sits and ruminates over what that 3-digit number is. It's not real anyway. You could go to a different planet. You weigh less. What would it mean? Would it make you healthier? No. You weigh less on the moon. Are you healthier there? Less chance of cardiovascular disease, better bone density, more muscle, longer life? Not necessarily. You just weigh less. Let that go. It's time to put the childish things to bed and move into adulthood. We really need to talk about your bone density, your strength levels in your muscle, your cardiovascular health, your blood sugar levels in health, and your lipid profile, and the fact that you're a capable human being. Until next time, let's keep it simple.